Imagine waking up to a quiet phone. No notifications blinking in the dark. No missed calls from someone who cares. No one checking in just to say hello. And in that silence, a heavier question settles in like fog. What does it really mean when you have no one to call? Not just in emergencies, when the world spins out of control, but on ordinary days, when something funny crosses your path, when you need advice on a simple choice, or when the weight of the night feels too much to carry alone. It's a loneliness that echoes, a void that whispers doubts. Most people assume it's about being unlikable, or awkward in ways that push others away, or somehow broken beyond repair. But psychology tells a different story, one that's kinder, more nuanced. This isn't always about rejection from the outside. Sometimes it's about protection from within. And if you're reading this, feeling that ache in your chest, know this: you're not alone in this silence. Millions feel it too. And there's a lesson here, a quiet moral woven into the pain. Your worth isn't measured by the names in your contacts. It's in the strength you've built to survive the quiet. Let's dive deeper. Some people have no one to call because they've been let down too many times before. They've opened their hearts, shared their stories, only to be dismissed like yesterday's news. They've reached out in vulnerability, poured out their truths, only to be ignored or met with silence. They've trusted deeply, invested their energy, only to be betrayed in ways that cut to the core. So the mind, in its wisdom, learns a brutal lesson. Connection comes with risk. Vulnerability comes with pain. And slowly, almost invisibly, they stop reaching. They stop calling. They build walls, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. This is called emotional withdrawal, a defense mechanism rooted in attachment theory. Psychologists like John Bowlby explained how early experiences shape our bonds. If those bonds repeatedly shatter, the brain rewires to avoid the hurt. It's not coldness freezing your heart.
It's survival instinct kicking in. The moral here? It's okay to protect yourself. You've been through enough. But remember, walls keep out pain and also potential joy. The lesson is balance. Learn to peek over those walls when you're ready, because healing starts with acknowledging the hurt, not burying it deeper. Then there are those who have no one to call because they've outgrown the people around them. They think deeply, pondering life's big questions long after others have moved on. They feel intensely, emotions swirling like storms while others skim the surface. They crave conversations that dive into meaning, philosophy, dreams, not just weather or weekend plans. But most relationships stay shallow, like puddles after rain. Small talk feels exhausting, a drain on their limited energy. Drama feels pointless, a distraction from inner growth. So they choose silence over pretending. They retreat into solitude, where their thoughts can roam free. Psychologists call this selective attachment or high introversion. It's a trait seen in highly sensitive people, as described by Elaine Aron. These individuals process the world more deeply, noticing subtleties others miss. Their inner world is rich, a garden of ideas, creativity, and reflections. They don't need constant validation from crowds. They've learned to be their own safe space, their own best listener. But to the outside world, it looks like isolation, like they're choosing to be alone out of arrogance or indifference. And sometimes it becomes that, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because depth is rare in a fast-paced world, and waiting for genuine connection can take years, stretching into loneliness. The lesson for you, if this resonates? Your depth is a gift, not a curse. Don't dim it to fit in. The moral is patience. True connections find those who match your wavelength. In the meantime, nurture that inner garden. Read books that speak to your soul. Journal thoughts that no one else understands.
Create art from the silence. Because self-sufficiency isn't loneliness, it's empowerment. And one day, someone will wander into your garden and stay. There's another side too, one that's often hidden in the shadows of the mind, the weight of unspoken anxiety. For some, picking up the phone feels impossible, a mountain too steep to climb, not because there's no one there on the other end, but because the mind floods with fear, a torrent of what-ifs. What if I bother them with my problems? What if I sound needy, desperate, too much? What if they don't really care, and this proves it? This is the voice of social anxiety, a disorder affecting millions. It turns every potential call into a perceived threat. The heart races, palms sweat, thoughts spiral. Over time, the habit of not calling becomes stronger than the desire to connect. Avoidance becomes the default. The loop tightens like a noose. No calls lead to fewer relationships. Fewer relationships mean more proof that no one cares. More proof reinforces the fear, leading to even fewer calls. It's a psychological trap, hard to escape without awareness. Studies from the American Psychological Association show how this cycle fuels depression. Loneliness amplifies negative thoughts, making the world feel hostile. But here's the quiet truth most people miss, the one that can shift everything. People who have no one to call often understand others better than anyone. They've spent years observing from the sidelines, listening without interrupting, noticing the smallest shifts in tone, the flicker of eyes, the unspoken pain behind a forced smile. Their empathy runs deep, a wellspring from solitude. Even if it's rarely returned or recognized, they see people clearly, motivations laid bare, but they rarely feel seen themselves, because the world rewards loud connection, extroverted charm, not quiet presence, not the subtle art of truly listening. So they stay on the edges, watching life unfold.
Waiting for authenticity, not for a crowd of superficial friends, but for one person who won't make them perform. One person who won't disappear when things get real. One person who answers when they finally gather the courage to call. Because beneath the silence is not emptiness. It's caution, learned from scars. It's depth, craving reciprocity. It's exhaustion from giving more than they ever received. And sometimes, buried deep, it's hope. Hope that one day reaching out won't hurt like it has. That being known won't cost everything they've built. That having someone to call won't feel like a risk, but like coming home to a place they've always deserved. If you recognize yourself in this description, feeling the sting of depression's grip, know this first. Your silence doesn't mean you're difficult or flawed. It doesn't mean you're unworthy of love or connection. It means you've protected yourself the only way you knew how. And that's a sign of resilience, not weakness. The moral here is self-compassion. Be kind to the parts of you that learned to hide. They kept you safe when the world wasn't. But now, perhaps it's time to learn a new lesson. Healing doesn't mean forcing yourself to call everyone in your past. It doesn't mean transforming into a social butterfly overnight. It means starting small, with steps that feel manageable. One message to an old acquaintance, one honest sentence, "I've been feeling isolated lately." One person who's earned a sliver of your trust. Because you don't need 100 voices clamoring for attention. You just need one that stays steady and true. Research from positive psychology, like Martin Seligman's work on learned optimism, shows small actions build momentum. A single positive interaction can rewire those fear pathways. Start with online communities where anonymity eases the pressure. Forums for introverts, anxiety support groups, or hobby-based chats. Share a thought, see if it lands. If it does, build from there. Another lesson. Redefine what connection means. It doesn't have to be constant calls or daily texts. It can be a weekly check-in with someone who gets it. or volunteering where bonds form through shared purpose, or therapy where a professional listens without judgment. Cognitive behavioral therapy has helped countless people break the anxiety loop. It teaches you to challenge those what-if thoughts. Replace them with evidence. What if they do care? What if this call changes everything? And if depression clouds your motivation, that's okay too. Seek help, a counselor, a hotline, medication if needed. The National Alliance on Mental Illness reminds us, isolation thrives in secrecy. Speaking it out loud diminishes its power. Imagine a story, one that might mirror yours. There's a woman named Elena who once had friends but lost them to moves, misunderstandings, betrayals. Her phone gathered dust. Nights blurred into days of solitude. Depression whispered she was forgettable. But one day, she joined a book club online, shared a vulnerable thought about a character's loneliness. Someone responded, "I feel that too." A conversation sparked. Calls followed, not many, but meaningful. She learned her quiet wasn't the flaw, it was her strength. Her empathy drew people in. Now she has a few to call. Not a crowd, but enough. The moral? Change is possible, even in small doses. Your story isn't over. It's pausing, gathering breath. Now, let's talk about the biology behind this. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's physical. Harvard studies show it raises cortisol, stresses the body like smoking. But connection releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Even petting a dog or hugging a pillow can start the flow. Lesson: start with self-connection. Meditate for 5 minutes. Walk in nature. Notice the leaves. These rebuild neural pathways for trust. Over time, they make calling less daunting. And if you've been depressed, know the brain can heal. Neuroplasticity means new habits form new grooves. The old ruts of isolation fade. Moral: you're not stuck. You're adaptable, capable of growth, even now. As we near the end, hold this close. When you have no one to call, it's not the end of your worth. It's a chapter teaching you about boundaries, depth, resilience. The silence is your teacher. Listen to it. What does it say? Perhaps you've survived alone. Now imagine thriving with support. Reach out, not from desperation, but from strength, because you deserve voices that lift you. And when you find them, when someone finally picks up and listens without judgment, without leaving, you'll realize something profound. The phone was never really silent. It was waiting for you to believe you're worth the call. You were just gathering the courage for the right voice on the other end, one that says, "I'm here. Tell me everything." And in that moment, the lesson crystallizes. Connection isn't about numbers. It's about quality, about being seen. And you, with your depth and empathy, are worth seeing, worth calling, worth every word. So pick up the phone, not today if it's too much, but soon. Start the conversation with yourself first, then the world. Because life, even in depression's shadow, has voices waiting for you. You just have to dial.